Hi, I'm Thomas Reitmaier, and I'm excited to present our interdisciplinary research on cultivating spoken language technologies for unwritten languages. I'll be talking about how we partnered with a Banjara community in rural India. They speak a language called Gurmati, which does not have a written form. Together, we developed a voice search system, which you can see on the left, which matches fluidly spoken queries to community-generated media. That media has been annotated with voice recordings, so search results are generated by matching the queries to the corresponding voice annotations. A substantial and novel technical contribution of our work is that automatic speech recognition pipeline, which has very low data requirements. Our research thus shows how we can develop spoken language technologies to support unwritten, minoritized languages without any existing digital language resources, how we can engage community members to contribute data, and critically how these are then matched to use cases that support community needs and functions. Our research took place over 3 phases, each consisting of field research in the community, followed by lab research and development. During the first ethnographic phase, we focused on learning, participation, problem framing, and problem understanding. Reflecting on these learnings, we then interrogated the assumptions and biases of existing systems and identified new design opportunities. During the second phase, we engaged community members more specifically on communication practices and trained participants to contribute voice data in their language. Back in the lab, we then developed the voice search system you saw on the previous slide. Finally, during the third phase, we returned to the community to trial and evaluate the system, and also leveraged it to inspire new use cases for spoken language technologies. Let's begin with the first phase. We were hosted by and lived with Banjara community members during our research. Banjaras were previously a nomadic tribe that was forced to settle by British colonial rule. They now lead a farming lifestyle with a distinct cultural identity, and they tend to keep to themselves. The community speaks Gurmati, a language that shares characteristics with about 3,000 other endangered languages spoken across the world. It has no written form, and there are no digital language resources or existing speech-enabled technologies. Polylingualism is common. Most are fluent in either Marathi or Hindi. However, some were either not fluent or not literate in those languages. The first phase of this research was not directed to a particular technological purpose. Instead, we used it as an opportunity to observe, to participate, and to learn. Every day we accompanied our hosts as they walked into the fields that surround their village. Along the way, we stopped to greet and chat with other community members. We asked what they were doing and observed them carry out their work in the fields. We captured glimpses of such encounters through photos, and we also videoed community members demonstrating their work. For instance, here you can see our host talk about cultivating wheat. Dani, who's fluent in Hindi, did most of the talking and translation. This type of field work on foot was a fantastic way of learning about Banjara culture, language, and farming practices. And we even picked up some Gurmati phrases that our hosts were all too eager to teach us. And the insights we gained and the rapport we built here were invaluable to later situate design activities. Many older community members relied on their feature phones seen here, which they generally shared within their household. But we learned that a new 4G mast had just been installed in this rural area. And it was interesting to see how younger community members were appropriating smartphone technologies and using it to access and consume popular culture, for instance on YouTube. For context, data rates in India are some of the cheapest in the world and are generally locally affordable. Another thing that stood out for us was how little written text there was in this primarily oral community. This is why the works of commentators like Walter Ong and Jack Goody are of particular pertinence to our research, and they've also influenced the broader HCI4D research community. They draw attention to the ways in which oral thought relies on repetition, how information is structured through narratives, and how abstract categories and sort of complex information hierarchies should consequently be avoided, especially when designing user interfaces for primarily oral users. Through our research, we uncovered how participants preferred to search for information using fluidly spoken queries rather than keywords. In fact, the very notion of a keyword, such as those I've highlighted in bold here, is located within written epistemologies. We used orality theory and what we learned in the community to uncover hidden assumptions of existing systems that are tailored to marginalized communities. Online platforms such as Digital Green come to mind, which is basically YouTube for subsistence farmers. However, on the Digital Green website, videos are organized through a hierarchical navigation system. So you browse for a video by language, region, and category. This favors larger regional languages that are more commonly written. Next, there are interactive voice response systems, which have been tremendously popular in India. These have been adapted to domains as diverse as farming or journalism. You might be familiar with IVR systems when phoning up your bank. Often you'll have a list of different options with numbers read out to you, which you then need to enter after the beep. More advanced systems also let you speak the number or speak a keyword. Although these are audio interfaces, we can see how these operate on written epistemologies and assumptions. Navigation is done through nested menus or through keyword-driven speech. Then there are projects to support Indigenous communities in South Africa and Australia. These projects develop bespoke, community-accessible tablets and notice boards to broaden digital inclusion, especially among women. However, a common limitation is the difficulties users face finding older content. This was also true for voice messages on smartphones. In our own multi-sided study of marginalized WhatsApp users, participants expressed great difficulties finding old voice messages, as exemplified by the screenshot on the right. So there's a tremendous potential for speech and language technologies to have a positive impact in this area. We wanted to develop a speech-driven information retrieval system and thought that such a system could facilitate digital expression and sharing of Banjara insight and culture. So we returned to the community to deepen our partnership. A core tenet of our work is to engage and reciprocate rather than solely collect or worse, extract. On the left, you can see how we taught community members how spoken language technologies are able to learn from repeated exposure to particular phrases. In this context, we also discussed different things that community members might want to access or share, ranging from songs, photos, and videos to the price of cotton, their main cash crop. However, to keep things simple, we initially settled on just photos, for instance, of crops or equipment. On the right, you can see how we trained community members to record voiceovers for such photos using digital storytelling software. We asked participants to narrate the activities and processes surrounding the things pictured. While training the system, we then associated each recording with the respective photo. On the left, you can see examples of the photos that community members annotated. And on the right, you can see a plot that shows how many seconds of audio annotations community members recorded for each photo. You'll notice that this plot is a bit skewed. That is because participants would start recording their annotations from the first photo in the collection, and thus only rarely annotated the very last photos. This is something we have since been streamlining with more bespoke tooling. Community members created these recordings for about a month after we left the community. In total, we collected just under 4 hours of voice annotations, enough for us to train the voice search system. Having created the system, which is detailed in the paper, we returned to the community to evaluate it. And we also leveraged it to inspire other use cases. So to evaluate the system, we recruited 8 community members who had not previously contributed training data. Individually, we showed them each photo in the collection. They then used the app to record a query that, in their view, should return that photo. We then logged the position at which that photo was actually returned. Participants preferred longer, more fluid queries over keywords. And after experimenting with the system, community members were inspired and challenged us to explore, for instance, how to integrate Banjara songs or other video content in the system. Before I show you the plot summarizing the results of our evaluation, I want to explain its structure. So top-ranking search results you'll find down here. That is the cases where the photo we were expecting to show up was in fact one of the top-ranking results. Up here, you'll see the instances where the system failed to match the photo to the query, and the photo was one of the last results returned. Next, this line represents our target, to return the correct photo within the top 5 results. Basically, we want things to appear on or below this line. Finally, each photo is also color-coded on the plot. Right? So looking at the overall distribution, you can see that our system was a success. That is, we met our top 5 target criteria of 74% of the time. Again, the paper has all the details. Taken together, our systems and methodologies function as an adaptable blueprint for engaging minoritized language communities to co-design and develop spoken language technologies to support their needs and functions, their language and their ways of speaking. It addresses the digital and linguistic divides as they currently exist, as well as new divides that are splitting open in terms of access to AI technologies. Our research shows how we can co-design and develop AI-enabled innovations from seed, involving and engaging community throughout. To further that aim, our systems, methodologies, and pipelines are all open source. Finally, we'd like to wholeheartedly thank Banjara community members as well as our funders. Thank you very much.